healer in you, the king, the queen, the magician, the lover in you. Every single day, we are called to walk in our purpose. Answer the call. Lay down your burden and anything that holds you back and take your rightful place. The battle is everywhere. It's right in your face. Let's go.
Welcome to Magnets, Crystals, and Pyramids. Success is your destiny. Yes. Love, wisdom, power. Remember, yes, always I am who you are. Yes, yes, I am. Love, wisdom, power. Yes, yes, I am. Love, yes, power. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Love, wisdom, power. Yes, yes, I am. Love, wisdom, power. Master. Yes, I am. Yes, love, wisdom, power. Yes, I am. Say yes to yourself. Yes, I am. Protected. Yes, I am. Master. I am. Yes.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to Moorish Monday with Abdullah El Talib Mosi Bey on Magnets, Pyramids, Crystals. YouTube. I want to always give a shout out to Brother Hank, Uncle Hank, who has offered this platform, opened up his house to me for the past 20 months. We have a wonderful topic today. I'm so excited. We have Akasha Bay in the house, catching babies, holding lineage, reclamation of ancestral birthwork. Before we get right into it, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Let people know that we are live and direct. Share the video, or let people on your various social media platforms that we know we're live. This is the second time Akasha has been on my platforms. We had the some of the students from the contractual trust and contractual legal safeguard course, and she was one of them that was on the platform. This was back about maybe 3 months ago, 2.5 months ago. So I'm excited. I wanted to give Akasha this platform so that she can actually expand, her outreach and a connection and network. It's important that, and particularly for our women too, because as you know, the ancient civilization, the ancient principles are matriarchal, matrilineal. So that has to be restored in the minds of our people. So once again, welcome. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and the notification button. Sister Akasha, who do we have with you? Who do you have with you
Peace.
today, this
Yes,
evening?
peace, everyone. This is Kahir. This is my youngest. Yeah. He didn't want to play or eat early. Of course, like children, they wait till when your
I
attention is
know.
supposed to be somewhere else. Yeah. And then they
Yep,
want your
yep, yep.
attention. So yeah, he rocking here with me today. He gonna be with us.
All right, great.
Yeah, he said, hey.
Hey, live and
Yes.
direct. So before we get into the topic, I want you to let the audience know who you are,
Okay.
your journey. And I know you'll be talking about your journey throughout your presentation, but I want you to begin with, walking us through your journey.
Okay. Well, peace, everyone. And first and foremost, I want to thank Brother Abdullah and Brother Hank, for having me on the platform. I'm honored and you're much appreciated. Y'all loved and appreciated. My name is Akasha Kali Bey, and I am a birth worker. I'm a midwife, a womb practitioner, a shaman, and a goddess devotee. And my journey, I could say easily that my journey it started from when I touched down on this planet, but with my birth work, it started about 16 years ago. I would say, yeah, about 15, 16 years ago, right around the time that I had my oldest son. And naturally, my mother being from the continent, and my father being from over here in the Americas, a lot of I come from a long line of very, powerful women, very wise women, and a lot of birth knowledge and child care was naturally just passed down and shared amongst us. Excuse me. I'm a little under the weather too, so excuse me. It was passed down to us naturally, with just caretaking. I'm also the eldest daughter of my family, of my parents and my siblings. So I was always side by side with my mother, helping to raise my siblings and take care of my siblings. I officially got into birth work, starting out as a lactation counselor after I had my oldest. And I was fascinated after learning, the different dynamics of our bodies as women. And excuse me, he was my landlord. He had to do some things for the house. Um, I was fascinated at just the way our body worked and just that spiritual and biological, physiological connections and functions that we had as women, and just being embodied in this experience as a woman. And then that fascination, and just that interest led me into becoming a doula, and then furthering my education to become a midwife. Simultaneously, I feel like, well, my spiritual journey was kind of happening side by side with my birthwork journey. And naturally, naturally I realized that the traditional birth path was the way for me, because I was already living my life I was called to live my life in a more ancestral way, in a more holistic way. So naturally it brought me down that path. Do you want me to continue?
That's great. That's great. That gave us
Okay.
that gave us some insight into your journey. So so we have
Yeah. If you want more
the do
details, let me know the specifics.
no, we'll definitely do that as we go on. So we
Okay.
have today's topic is catching babies holding lineage, reclamation of ancestral birth work. So
Yes.
why did you choose this topic?
I chose the topic because we're at a time where I think we've been at a very pivotal time, um, in our communities, as pertaining to our health, the health of our children, and the legacy of midwifery is not spoken. It's spoken about, but I feel like it's not spoken about on the level that it should be.
Mhm.
I think that a lot of the times when it's spoken about modern Black midwifery, and I'm just gonna use Black as, I guess, common ground, right? Black and Indigenous, when referring to us, or melanated. Um, when it comes to midwifery, and birth work in our world, in the modern world, there's been a lot of subjugation. There's been a lot of coercion. There's been a lot of dismantling and attempts to erase our practices, while at the same time taking this information and assimilating it into medicine. And I think that it's important that we know and understand that, just like many of the other foundational aspects of society in what is called America, healthcare and birth work, we as Black people, as melanated people, we laid the foundation, we laid the groundwork. Our granny midwives and our Black Indigenous midwives were the ones that laid the groundwork for the standard of birth work and healthcare here in the States.
All right. Those who are just joining us, welcome. Welcome to
I'm gonna
Moorish
get a
Monday.
little water. I'm gonna get a little
Yeah,
water, Brother
absolutely.
Abdullah. All right.
Yeah, please, no problem. Welcome. Those who are just joining us, welcome to Moorish Monday with Abdullah El Talib Mosi Bey on Magnets, Crystals, Pyramids, YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. Let people know that we are live and direct. Share it. Yell it from the mountaintop. And as you know, I've been on this platform for 20 months, rocking 20 months. And I always want to give a shout out to Brother Hank for offering this platform, for reaching out to me in November 2023 and offering this platform to me. I have a host of wonderful guests down the road. So I've had over 35 guests uh, since I've been on this platform. And I'm utilizing this platform to facilitate unity, political unity, and outreach, and facilitating, and bringing together a larger network, so that we can, strengthen our power. We being to work together, as a different networks. So once again, I'm always excited to bring the sisters on. Uh, it's important because, as has been said, as I've been on this journey, Moorish conscious journey for 33 years, and a lot of sisters would say, "Where are the sisters?" There was, "Where are the sisters?" So any opportunities I get, any chance that I get to bring sisters on to help, illuminate us, give the sisters a platform, so that we can push forth restore the feminine energy, as patriarchy represents the suppression and the supplanting of that feminine energy in the ancient matrilineal and matriarchal or focal systems of ancient civilization. So we're gonna dive more into the topic.
Absolutely.
All right. So catching babies, holding lineage, ancestral, reclaiming ancestral birth work.
Birth work. Yep.
All right.
Yes. Yes.
So catching babies and holding lineage, and you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that tying the connection of that this is our culture. This is our ancient
Mm-hmm.
culture that
Yes.
has been snatched from us, has been
Mm-hmm.
supplanted.
Indeed.
And so
Indeed.
why do you think that's the case? Why do you think the English, the Dutch, the Portuguese, the French, the Castilians,
Spaniards.
the Arcanese,
The Spaniards.
the and then so when we say Spaniards, they're actually the Castilians and Arcanese, the Arcanese and the
Oh.
Castilians. They're
Okay. All right.
Arcanese.
Look. Well, I learned something new
Yeah, that's
today.
so
Okay.
so that's the Arcanese, and I'm explaining up so on why I'm saying the Arcanese and the Castilians. King
Right.
Isabella, Queen Isabella of Kingdom of Castile, and King Ferdinand of the Kingdom of Aragon married in November of 1469, forming the Kingdom of Spain. So you now have a new nationality, Spanish.
Got it.
And so,
Okay.
but that's
Okay.
that's the new nationality, Spanish. But
That's the
so
new
you have
nationality. Okay.
Aragonese, and Castilians.
Okay.
Yeah. So the new
Arcanese and
nationality
Castilians.
forming both kingdoms, Spanish or Spain. Yeah. So that's
Okay.
why I
So
went back
basically,
to,
those two nations came together, became that.
yeah, those two
Got you.
kingdoms. Yeah, two
Okay.
kingdoms were
Okay.
merged by marriage and
Okay.
formed Spain,
On
and the new
Spanish.
nationality, Spanish.
Got you.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. All right. I got some homework to do after
Yes.
this.
Hmm.
Indeed. Um, were you gonna continue your question, or you want me to just take it from
You can
here?
take it. You good.
Yeah. I think this is something that's been going on. I would say since the Inquisition, and probably prior to, during the times 17th, 18th century, um, when the church was taking over and the church was starting to go on their crusades and convert people under violence. Prior to the Western medicine and the Western medical complex, the priestesses, as you were speaking about, with the matriarchal, the matrilineal, heritage and culture, it was the priestesses, and a lot of them, they were goddess devotees to what we call the Great Mother. And Christianity, they call her the Madonna, or the Black Madonna. And the priestesses were the ones who dealt with healing, the healing arts and the birth arts. But when patriarchy, these patriarchal nations began to take over, exploit, subjugate, these traditions, they were stolen from, they learned from them, and then they persecuted the women, they persecuted the priestesses, also known as sibyls. They persecuted them. They, a lot of them, they killed. um a lot of them, they were forced into slavery and things of that nature. So it's a long time. I feel like this battle, in a sense, it's a spiritual battle, it's a form of spiritual warfare. um and it runs deep, and it's not just about the money and control. That's the superficial bottom line, the money and control. But the deeper bottom line is to be able to have access to our genetics, and the cosmic and earthly and primordial codes that we carry as original people.
Let's dive more into that, because you're hitting it on, and because you mentioned the money, you're getting into you're getting into the divinity. You're getting into you're bringing into the divinity aspect of it, which is very important.
Right.
That you bring that forth, and I just want us to dive more into that,
Okay.
and more detail, because that's a very important piece that you're bringing out. And I want the audience to really, be able to sink their teeth in to what you're saying. You're actually bringing it out. In the Haudenosaunee Constitution,
Hmm.
known by a lot of people as the Iroquois Confederation Constitution, which formed a confederation of 5 independent sovereign states. And so in Articles 45 to 50, 52, Articles 42, I believe, to 52 or so, that reserves the ancient matriarchal and matrilineal system. Now, I disagree with those, and I will challenge with Doc. I would challenge with by going. All I have to do is show that here the Haudenosaunee Constitution. That's all. That's my evidence. My evidence, my finding of facts, is the Haudenosaunee Constitution. It's the United States Constitution is not patterned
Mm.
after the Haudenosaunee Constitution. Those who make that claim have not read it. They'll simply read what somebody else says it. Have you read it yourself? My brothers and sisters, please read it for yourself. I used to think that. I parroted like y'all did. I was like y'all. I parroted. I parroted somebody saying the Iroquois Constitution, the United States Constitution, is patterned after the Iroquois Constitution. I parroted that. To thy own self be true. I had never read it. I had never read it until 2019. For 25, 27 years. I parrot it, somebody's statement. But once I read it for myself, I say, oh my gosh. If you look at Articles 42 to Articles 52, that is the matrilineal. That is the structure. Meaning the titles, the wealth, the governing structure, governing power is passed down to the mother line of the family. The fire lords would be the males, but they were put in position by the clan mother. So that to pattern something, just follow me, read it for yourself, not Abdullah. Please do not, you don't need to say Abdullah said anything. Just read it. Why do you gotta say Abdullah said? Just read it. You see it for yourself. To pattern something, that means, do you see that? That means that once again, the mother passed down to the mother sign. That's the matrilineal system.
Mm-hmm.
So if you read the articles, you will see that it's not pattern. You don't see that system within the United States governing structure. But people, once again, they haven't read it. They did. Once again, I'm gonna be upfront, my brothers and sisters. I was like y'all. I parroted too. I'm no better than y'all. I parrot like everybody else. I pattern it. I parrot people. All right. But I read it. I finally read it in 2019 and said, oh my goodness. It just opened up a whole new world. So the reason I'm emphasizing the parroting, take the lesson. Stop parroting. Stop parroting. Do the work and read it for yourself. The weakness in this Moorish movement is parroting. I was guilty of it myself. I'm no better. I was guilty of it. I don't parrot it anymore. So that's why I'm emphasizing that, Akasha, because that's a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
We got to kill that weakness. We got to kill the parroting. We got to kill the parroting.
Indeed. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because that gives more context to our foundations as indigenous people, and it was matrilineal and passed down from the mother to the child for a reason. It wasn't on some, matriarchal version of patriarchy where now the women are, suppressing the men and, being tyrannical, but it was the pattern of nature because we all come through the womb. You receive your initiation, your kingship, your queenship from going through the womb. Nobody is, nobody is exclusive of it. So that's the natural foundations. A lot of our, one thing that I've learned from my studies, a lot of our laws are based off of nature and just the natural order of things. Everything is in harmony. Everything is in a synergy. So I also wanted to I want to shout out Sister Ross Mariah Bay. I used to take the classes at the Black National Theater back like around 2013, 14. Brother Hakeem Bay as well, because she taught a lot about that the matrilineal clans and that system, and she sheds a lot of light on that. And those spiritual mystical aspects to, in connection to laying the foundation of the laws in our societies and civilizations.
Absolutely. And that's wonderful that you bring. That's why I wanted to, spend some time on that. This part is very important. And so now what Sister Akasha is bringing forth is known as, in the international arena as customary law.
Customary.
She's conveying the concept of customary law. That's known as customary law, where Akasha mentioned that a lot of our laws come from nature, observing nature, and they're the body of law that's called customary law. The customs and culture and rituals and ceremonies and holidays, you, and put together, known
Mm-hmm.
as customary law.
Customary
I
laws.
wanted to put it in the context of international law, that there's a body of law in international law known as customary law, and I
Customary
just
law.
wanted to tie that into what Akasha was saying.
Look, I'm gonna have to be taking notes while we doing this live because I'm learning too. I'm gonna jot everything down, but definitely have to hit you up after this tomorrow. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Okay. Yeah. Go
absolutely.
ahead. Go ahead. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about that?
No, no, absolutely
Okay.
not. I just wanted to tie in because you're
Yes.
hitting it. That's the one I wanted to tie it in to make it universal. That
Hmm.
there is a body of law in internet public international law known as customary law. For those who are
Customary
not
law.
aware.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, so going back into, I guess I'll jump right into it, and
Mhm.
we'll just build
Absolutely,
back and forth organically. Yeah.
absolutely.
Because that's how you flow anyway. That's how it's been flowing. So I'm gonna start with okay, so catching babies holding lineage, a reclamation of ancestral birthwork. I've introduced myself, and now I'm gonna talk to you about who the misnomered Black and Indigenous midwives were, and their standards and models of care, right? And this ties into for what Brother Abdullah was saying about customary law, because our customary laws and customs lay the foundation of our practices, our hygienic practices, our healthcare practices. So, the Black Indigenous midwives were pillars in our community. They were not only skillfully trained in the process of perinatal care, but many of them were also spiritual leaders and healers, sharing their skills and expertise to empower their communities. The original models of care, and I want y'all to keep this word in mind, models of care, because these are the models of care is what sets the standards for practices. So different types of healthcare organizations have different models of care. So the models of care in Black and Indigenous birth work was something called community based. So it involved a holistic combination of spiritual and clinical practices. Spiritually, the focus was on the mental and emotional well being of the mother, because when the mother is well, naturally, so is the baby. And clinically, the focus was hands on yet not invasive preventative care. Perinatal visits consisted not only of checking vitals and assessing the mother's health, but there was a lot of body work done, and holistic therapies applied to the pregnant mothers. Things like palpation, checking the position of the baby, massaging, different forms of hydrotherapy, aromatherapy, going out in nature, making sure the mother moved her body, because fitness and muscle tonality plays a huge part in laboring. Another major component of a healthy pregnancy and delivery is nutrition, which midwives and birth attendants focused heavily on. Your body is literally creating another being, right? From your matter, from your body, flesh of your flesh, bone of your bone. And to successfully carry a baby to full term without complications and to recover successfully as well, a woman's body needs to be hydrated with good quality water, and she needs to eat mineral and vitamin rich foods. So these things were given to the women in our community during pregnancy and after and postpartum as well. The spiritual wisdom of the midwives and birth attendants influenced the clinical aspect of how they held space for labor and delivery, because they had a deep understanding of natural cycles, rhythm, and time space in relation to our bodies during birth. Labor itself is it's a process, and it happens in stages. All right. Just like a plant blooming, just like the cycles of our human form, right? We from a child into an adult, it's a process of development over time. um, and in the hospitals a lot with medical models of care. When child care, part of the reasons why childbirth was monopolized and pushed in in the medical field is because obstetrics bring in a lot of money. Is seen as, a very lucrative, consistent business because people are always having babies. But these medical, a lot of these physicians, they're trained in these medical procedures. They're not necessarily trained in the healing and the care of. It's about procedures. And each procedure has a price tag attached to it, C-section being one of the highest. And then you have labor induction, where they administer, synthetic hormones like Pitocin, which can cause negative effects to the body. I was administered Pitocin with my oldest, and I had a heart palpitation. I had no history of heart palpitation. And what I realized later on, on my journey, looking back, they separated me from my son because they wanted to monitor me. They wanted to monitor me for a certain amount of time, and they were just trying to do that to really cover themselves because they know the effects of these pharmaceuticals. They know that I had a heart palpitation because they administer high doses of Pitocin to force my labor. So yeah, I'm good. Thank you. It's my husband. They knew what was going on, but they monitored me to, make sure. But I remember, when I was asking questions, because I think I was 19 at the time, and I was asking, questions. What's going on? Y'all have me in triage. Where's my baby? And it was like, well, you had a heart palpitation, and we have to monitor you. And they try to make me feel as if I was the reason why I had an issue with my body, like it was something I did, or a medical history I had. And I don't have any medical, we don't have medical histories in our family of heart attacks and heart palpitations and things like that. So a lot of times the process of labor is rushed in the hospitals because they're trying to get as many bodies in the bed as possible. More bodies, more money. It's profit over people. So they will rush the natural process of birth, where a woman, for instance, the yoni, you can liken it to like a flower blossoming, right? You go literally from 2 centimeters to 10 centimeters to birth the baby naturally. But the doctors would administer, again, they'll induce the labor. Or, for instance, you'll have situations when the baby is descending and getting closer into crowning and birthing, you can't monitor the baby's heart rate, but that's because the baby's already on their way out. And they will take a situation like that, which is a natural situation, turn it into an emergency, and now the mother's having a C-section. But that's a big ticket for the physician that is, operating that procedure. Did you want to ask anything, or do I keep
I,
rolling?
you invoked and thought in me, because I'm always listening intently. There's a book.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you're aware of it. The
Okay.
Great Cosmic Mother, Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth. And there's a chapter in there by
Hmm.
Monica Suge and Barbara Moore.
Okay.
And
I don't have that one.
you have
I
that
don't have
one?
that one in my library.
You
Yeah,
need
I
to
don't
get
have
that
that
one.
one.
You need to get the
Okay.
Great Cosmic Mother, Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth. And there's a chapter in there entitled The Woman as the Machine.
Mm,
So where
mm,
you were talking,
mm.
the woman as a machine, because y'all were that see how they this is patriarchy.
Yeah.
Patriarchy is not a natural system of civilization.
Hmm.
Patriarchy equals conquests,
Yes.
subjugation,
Yes.
colonization,
Yes.
supplanting
Dominion.
ancient. That's patriarchy. So the
Dominating.
women as a machine, and y'all produce the labor force. So y'all viewed. You see,
Yes. That's how it's viewed.
understanding the patriarchal mindset.
Yeah. Like you're
It's
breeding. It's like we're breed.
you're
Like
breeders.
a cattle breed. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Because
Cattle breeding.
you're
Hmm.
labor force. You produce the labor
Yes.
force.
Produce the labor.
You produce
Hmm.
the labor force.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very good book, very very good book. They really break things down. You get a chance, put that in your shopping cart as soon as you
Definitely.
can, and you definitely need that book. The woman
Okay.
as the. There's another book called The Great Cosmic. When God was a woman. When
When
God was a
God was a woman.
woman.
I know that one. I don't
Yeah,
have that. I got a
man.
bunch of books in my cart. I
Wow.
have Mama Zogbe. I have a in Yafa. I have a whole library over here of my all my
Yes,
books on the Great Mother and the Goddess. But yeah, I mean, of course, the library you're always extending it.
absolutely. So I just
So I
wanted to
got
bring
one of
that
those.
chapter, the woman as the machine, as a machine.
Mhm. Yes,
Yeah.
and that's how it's looked. Actually, when part of the campaign, when doctors wanted to monopolize and medicalize birth, prior to that, birth was considered a natural physiological process because it is, right? Our bodies know how to birth. The babies know how to birth, just like we know how to eat and breathe. Like these are natural bodily processes. But they had to, in order, another way that element that they used to get it up under their wing was to consider birth, label birth under being a pathology and something that needed to be intervened with. Hmm. That makes me think about that, when you mentioned with,
There
with,
you
with the
go.
labor, it's like
There you go. Place
robotic
classifying that which is natural as a pathology.
as a pathology.
And that's and why is that? Just for control. It is for control. Is one is to supplant our ancient customary laws and to
Hmm.
and the motives to supplanting our ancient customary laws of birth practice
Hmm.
is that's part of the subjugation that
Yes.
falls into. And when we're talking subjugation, we're talking of a nation, a nation. So we're not talking as individuals. The problem is with this Moorish movement is
Hmm.
that we're taking an individual approach. We're not taking an approach of that we are people that belongs to a state that lost her sovereignty. We're not like
Right.
we just walk around and say we're Moors. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. We're Moors. We have to identify our mother. We have to identify the condition of our mother. Our mother, the condition of our mother is subjugation. We are we are we are tied to our mother by national origin, but we're not tied politically now because she has lost her sovereignty. So when a
Hmm.
state has lost her sovereignty, then for that state no longer has political power. So the people that belong to that state, all right, can't make a claim to the state because the state has been dismantled. So we're subjugated under another state. We were subjugated under France and Spain and Portugal. And then so Spain handed us over to the United States. France handed us over to the United States. So now the United States has maintained, I'm being very specific. The United States has maintained. So United States is not a conqueror. France is the conqueror. England, Great Britain's a conqueror. Portugal's a conqueror. United States is in possession of stolen goods. United States
Mm.
and still. France stole. Great Britain stole. The Dutch stole. United States is the possession of stolen goods. United States, France, Great Britain, Portugal, Spain handed this over to the United States. United States did not subjugate. United States did not begin the subjugation. They're maintaining it. United States did not conquer. United States did not survey. Great France did. France surveyed under Louis the 14th in the 1670s. They surveyed a large portion of our land. France created the survey map known as the Louisiana Territory. That under France conquest, France, When France sold it to the United States or transferred French territorial sovereignty to the United States through the treaty. So the United States gained title and territorial sovereignty through the treaty. So but the United States did not survey that. France did. So the United States is in the possession of this going to hood it. And the United States is in the possession of stolen goods. We are the stolen goods as well as our land. So the United States Constitution maintains the European colonization, the Spanish, French, Dutch, English conquest and colonization of our land. The United States is maintaining it through the United States Constitution. I'm being very detailed, very specific. I'm identifying that dog. I'm identifying the international principles. I'm identifying the name of treaties. We got to be specific. We can't say colonization. That's not good enough. We have to identify the treaty. We have to identify the principles. We have to identify international concepts and principles and terminology. Law is specific, so we have to be specific. And so that you start here, because I have to be specific because I want people to hear me. I want people to hear me so they can be able to look up these terms: territorial sovereignty, loss of sovereignty, law of secession, acquisition of territory, acquisition of nationality through cession, acquisition of nationality through subjugation. I have to be very specific to identify the dog, identify the international principle, so that we can effectuate change, so we can recover our lost Moorish sovereignty. We can re-enter the international community as an old individual state through the reversion of sovereignty. I'm being very specific. I'm identifying the international principles. We must do that. Saying colonization is not good enough. Identify the process for specificity with international principles and terminology. I know it. I'm the one. I'm taking the responsibility to teach it. I have to impart this knowledge so that we can elevate, this movement to where it should have been 100+ years ago.
Islam. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Islam. Okay. So the midwives didn't put the birth process on a strict time, nor did they use invasive, forceful methods to examine or speed up a birth's progress if the mother and baby weren't at risk. Through the cultural knowledge preserved and continuity of practice, the midwives had skills, techniques, and methods to approach unique births, such as the cord being around the baby's neck, different birth presentations, being able to guide the baby out in these different presentations without causing harm to the mother or the baby. If pain management without drugs and pharmaceuticals, if the mother was exhausted, depleted, or hemorrhaging, the midwives and birth attendants, they knew the plant medicines to use to revitalize the mother and the baby. The mother, and to keep blood and warmth in her body. If the baby needed resuscitation, they knew how to resuscitate the baby. The birth is a spiritual process. It's a physical process, but it's also a psychosomatic process for the mother as well as the baby. Sometimes when a baby is born, they may not be fully in their body, right? The spirit enters the body through what we know in our communities as the soft spot, and what is called scientifically is called the fontanelle. Um, the fontanelle is there to leave space for the baby, um, space for the baby's brain to grow rapidly. It grows rapidly within the first 2 years. And it also leaves space so that the cranium bones, because they're soft, everything is soft and immature when babies are born. And it leaves space for the skull to be able to maneuver, down the canal. You remember? Down the canal and birth. And I don't know if you've ever noticed, like babies, some babies might be born and their heads look like a cone, or their faces might be flat, or it'll have a different shape, depending on the presentation. But naturally, the head will go back into the shape. The midwives and the grandmothers used to say too, you shape the baby's head, you round the baby's head to smooth it out, make sure the baby has a nice shape. That wasn't just an old wives' tale. It is because they knew the softness of, the baby's head. It allowed them to make their descent and their touchdown. So a lot of these things that were deemed as, by campaigns and propaganda, they were deemed as, old wives' tale, or, that's backwards, that's country, that's ignorant. All of these things were it was the wisdom and the genius of our traditional midwives. They knew, and they didn't, just because they didn't, their language didn't describe it in a, with scientific terminology, doesn't mean that they were any less knowledgeable. So,
Well, you
okay.
keep, but you know the motive. You know the motive.
Right. We know
Like
the motive.
it's not it's not that they know we're wise. They know that we're wise. They don't. All right. They don't
Oh,
view
of course. Right.
they
Right. Exactly.
they
And
don't view
it's
us
an
as
attempt to
stupid. They
discredit
don't view
us.
us our ancestors as stupid. Yeah, exactly. They don't view our ancestors as ignorant. They don't view our ancestors as stupid. They
No.
don't view our ancestors none. They have great honor and respect for our ancestors. Why you say that? Because they hijacked it. If they did not have my reasoning for saying that, if you don't have if you do not honor, or you don't take somebody's culture and practice seriously, then you ignore it. They didn't ignore it. You ignore it. You don't mess with it. You don't touch it. You don't steal it. You don't hijack
Mhm.
it. You don't wear the fez.
Absolutely.
You don't do what the European Shriners. You don't do what the European Shriners and European mystics do. Take your Moorish fez and then take your Moorish names and put the Moorish scimitar above the crescent moon and five-pointed star. If you don't, so they hijacked it. All right. So my brothers
Hmm.
and sisters, please, they do respect our culture. They do honor our culture. They do our rituals. They do honor our ancient practices. They do honor our holidays. They hijacked it. See
Yeah.
this Afrocentric. We got it. That's emotionalism. Let's remove the emotionalism. They do give honor and high respect to us. They don't want you to know that.
Exactly.
So
So, the
so
campaigns,
they go.
yeah, these campaigns, yeah.
So
That's
they
actually what
play
you're
with
talking
us.
about. Yeah, it's segue into what I'm going to speak about next. So that's actually the next part. So I want to touch on it, but I'm not going to get into it just yet. But I'm gonna put that placeholder right there after I finish this segment. Um, okay, I got that part. Mother depleted. So baby fluid. Okay. All right. So yeah, that was just some. I'll finish off. Was saying also, when we start out in the womb, we're more aquatic in nature. So we go from being to a wet environment and a dry environment. So retaining some of that fluid is normal. The midwives are also skilled in knowing how to expel that fluid when the babies come out of these wet environments. Postpartum care was emphasized in melanated and indigenous birth work, with familial, and it was a familial and community affair. This is something that is still not emphasized much in the medical model of care. The aftercare is just as much important as the care during the pregnancy now, because the mother has to recover. So it was a community and a family affair, and the women from both parents' family, the birth team, and the women in the community, they would come together to support the parents. The first 40 days of birth was the most crucial. The mother was attended to as she regained her strength and as her hormones and nervous system eased back into a homeostasis. Just as in her prenatal care, She was fed nutrient dense foods and teas to replenish her body and support breastfeeding. The holistic therapies used were the same elements during the prenatal care, but this time it's more focused on closing the body, closing the energy centers, because physical labor. Um, hold up. Okay, here we go. Yes, the closing of her energy centers and stabilizing her spirit and mind back into her body. Because like I said, as physical as labor is, labor and birth, it's also spiritual, and it's an out of body experience in a sense. It can also be traumatic too. You know how it said that based on the size of its wings in proportion to its body, a bee technically isn't supposed to be able to fly, but it does. And our bodies as women, the lengths that it goes to birth, it said technically, some we might not be we someone could die from that, and some women have died from that, um when complications are involved. But complications, especially as it pertains to our community and what we have going on, a lot of our complications have come from approaching birth through the Western model of care, and allowing these procedures and these interventions to be done to our bodies, which it changes the trajectory of your birth. There were ritual and ceremonial and customary practices to protect the mother and baby from spiritual illness. Her portals were open and needed to be properly closed, because when the portals are not properly closed, that can lead to postpartum depression and the body not fully recovering from birth physically, which can lead to injury, muscle and organ weakness, uterine prolapses, bone deficiencies, dry skin, brittle hair, all forms of deficiencies. So how you were saying, you were speaking about the woman and labor from the book by the sister you mentioned, um, the Cosmic Mother. I like to use the analogy of our wombs being like the soil of the earth or the garden. When you plant in a certain plot or space in a garden, you can't just keep planting without replenishing the soil. If you don't replenish the soil, it'll become depleted, and then excuse me, either the plants won't grow, or they will grow stunted and then die back, or if they do grow, they'll grow with some type of deficiencies and normalities. So if you use that analogy of gardening plants and look at the state of women and children in our communities, you see it. You see it. The womb is connected to the earth and water elements. Biologically, she's known as your uterus, and your uterus is a gigantic muscle. It needs minerals, hydration, flexibility, and tonality to be healthy and function properly. So, closing this segment, I'm just going to end it with our community birth workers were members of the community and typically had repeated clientele. They had thorough health history, and an understanding of the social, spiritual, and emotional needs of the women and families they served. This was something that was largely absent from the hospital based medical model of care. This knowledge helped the midwives to give effective, individualized care. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm coming from being under the weather, so I'm trying to hold it down. This knowledge helped them to give effective and individualized care and have the most successful birth rates. And midwives today, the traditional midwives, CPMs, they still have the most successful birth rates and the highest success of birth rates compared to the hospitals and the physicians. Did you want to ask anything before I move to the second segment,
No,
or the second
doing an
part?
excellent job. Mhm.
Okay,
Just
thank you.
don't those who are just joining us, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you haven't done so already, hit the like button. Sister Akasha is doing an excellent job. Let people know that we're on. We have an hour
Yeah, we on,
left, and
man. We
we
here.
might end a little sooner as Akasha's under the weather. But we definitely however long you want to go, sister. We have an hour left.
Okay.
So please hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button as well as the like button, and let people know that we're on. Thank you, everyone.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so the colonization and criminalization of indigenous birthwork. Post enslavement and civil war, our indigenous healing and birthing traditions were still thriving in our communities. Our midwives and healers were respected leaders. Their expertise, skills, and authority were trusted and reliable. Up till the early 20th century, majority of the births in the states were assisted by midwives, not physicians. And as a matter of fact, many people, especially working class people and um, the our Black and Indigenous communities, right, which was segregated at that time, they didn't trust they didn't trust physicians. During that time, medicine was still young and it was trying to solidify itself. So a lot of their treatments were still just like to this day. They were harmful, they were toxic. They used heavy metals and things that were toxic and erosive to the body. Um, their training wasn't consistent. A lot of the medical schools were just for profit. They would do minimal training, minimal clinical and field work, and they would just pay for their degrees and then go out on the field and start experimenting on people. A lot of times these experimentations were they were on Black bodies. So on top of the inconsistent treatment and the harmful procedures, the subpar treatment, the cost of the services were expensive because medicine is and has always been a business. So it's about that bottom line. In segregated America, our communities, there was also that mistrust again because of the heavy experimentation done on our bodies during enslavement. At that time, the ancestors were considered legal property, um, and they were used for a lot of vaccine trials. The the white male doctor who created gynecology, a lot of his experimentation was on Black enslaved women, and he's considered, the father of gynecology. So and the Black and Indigenous folks who did have access to physicians, they also noticed that the care. Yes, I'm gonna laugh. Can I get some? Can ask Daddy. Can you ask Daddy? I'm on live right now. Thank you. The charge is right there. Okay. Can I get some cake? They were considered to be biased, neglectful, and harmful as well. I'm on the live, baby. You gotta ask Daddy. I'm on the live. Excuse me 1 second.
If you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. You haven't done so already. Those who are joining us, we are live with Akeisha Bay, catching babies, holding lineage, reclamation of ancestral birth work. You're live and direct
All right.
on Moorish Monday with Abdullah Il Talib Mostly Bay on Magnet Crystals Pyramids YouTube.
All right.
You
All
you
right. I'm
you you
back.
you're like good.
Okay. So throughout with that history of mistrust, with that reputation of mistrust and doing harm back then, during throughout the 20th century and especially in the early 20th century, the American Medicine Association worked relentlessly to legitimize medicine as a profession and as the only standard of healthcare. So in 1910, you had what is called the Flexner Report, when the Carnegie Foundation they commissioned a man named Abraham Flexner to go out and do a field study on all the other schools of healthcare and medicine. And at this time, there most of the, what's even practiced as medicine, even in the white communities, were, working with herbs. It was still a homeopathic, more natural form of healthcare. So it was done in the name of, excuse me, in the name of standardizing medical care to match the elite European medical school at the time, which was, I believe, John Tompkins. And in that report, though, they also used that as a weapon to dismantle and to discredit natural healing and natural medicine, while at the same time, co-opting it. The same game is the same thing. The destiny swap. After that was
Subjugation
passed.
of, of,
Yeah,
of, our,
go
of our
ahead.
people, dismantling of our movement. Yes. I just want to pull it. I want to pull it in the international framework.
Okay.
Place it. Place what you're saying. Place what you're saying in the international framework. Subjugation. Subjugation of an entire nation, and placing that people and to putting that people into a new citizenship framework. So we're
Mhm.
looking at the conquest. We're looking at the gaining territorial sovereignty. We're looking at the law of secession, loss of sovereignty. We're looking at forcing a conquered people into into the legal system and placing them into a new citizenship framework, and just using international law principles to place what you're saying.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's get some.
So
Get
because
some
that way
structure.
we can effectuate change. See what they've done was they've given us the Francois Benaire, Paul Linnaeus, Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, constructive racial labels, black, white, red, brown, and yellow, to suppress the concept of nationality and national consciousness, national name, national political unity, you know, treaty protection, consular relations, pre-existing more sovereignty. So there's no so that's done. And what they also do in doing that in constructing new paradigms to us, and having us argue racism,
Mhm.
discrimination,
Mhm.
prejudice, having
Mhm.
DEI, having us fight for DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, as opposed to the recovery of our lost moral sovereignty, as opposed to post-millennium, returning a people to their original status and condition before European conquest, colonization, subjugation, slavery, bondage, captivity. So they construct these new paradigms so that we'll never find our way home. It's not about reparations. It's not about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's about restoring our pre-existing Moorish sovereignty, pre-existing Moorish statehood, pre-existing position in among the family nations, re-entering the family and nations as an old and original state under the reversion of sovereignty. It's about regaining our sovereignty. So because we have to frame, we have to examine our condition in the international law framework. They're giving us, this discrimination. It's not discrimination. It's not racism. It's not hatred. It's not prejudice. It's the loss of our more sovereignty. It's English, French, Dutch, Portuguese, Spanish, conquest, colonization, subjugation of land that was transferred into hands and managed for over 200 years by the United States. I'm being very detailed. I am using with specificity international law principles and international law framework. Like like for instance, you're in the store, you're in the supermarket, and one of your children is lost in the supermarket, and so the child says, says they found. Where's your mother? So when we claim, when we put out to the world that we're black or Negro or colored or African American, we're saying to the world, this is what it means in international law. I don't know who my mother is. I don't know where my mother is. So this is what it means in international law, under the law of war. So you're looking at salvage, the law of salvage, captivity, booty. So you have a people that's lost at sea. So the power that is in control concedes you under the law of salvage. I don't know who our mother is. Our people really don't know what time it is. Because we've been conditioned with the Francois Benaire, Paul Linnaeus, Johann Frege constructive racial paradigm of black, white, red, brown, and yellow. What color are you? What you look like? Black and white. We don't. That is damaging. That is damaging. Our people don't know because they've been conditioned with that. So you have a people who don't know who their mother is, but that has a meaning in international law. We must frame our condition in the international framework.
That's right.
As you are.
Okay. So the result of the Flexner report being created, it resulted in the closure of 5 of the HBCU medical schools, 5 out of 7, and denying membership to Black physicians into medical boards and associations such as the AMA. In 1921, this is really where the pivot happened. In 1921, when the Shepard-Towner Act was passed, it was introduced to decrease high infant and maternal mortality rates in America. But the gag is that it wasn't in our communities. It was actually what's categorized as the um, white middle class women and affluent women, American born as well as white European women that had migrated over here as well. They were the ones who were having the high maternal mortality, maternal and infant mortality rates, because they were birthing with physicians, but the physicians did not have a model of care to birth at the time. Medical care in the United States really started developing during the World Wars. That's where medicine and the healthcare system started from. So they approach, and because of again the patriarchal approach, everything is it's a warlike. Even when, for instance, right, the Surgeon General, Dr. Phil Valentine always point that out, right? Why is who's supposed to be the head of the surgeons is called the Surgeon General, and so healthcare is approached in a very warlike way. When you go to them when you're sick, it's either they want to cut it out of you, they want to burn it out of you. They're going to give you a medicine that's going to kill it, but then it's also going to weaken your immune system and the natural antibodies that your body will use to fight. you know so it's like, take no prisoners. And so they would do things like have a sick patient and then go do a birth. They didn't understand proper care of the mother, of the the umbilical cord. They just didn't have a foundation. A lot of women died because a lot of women died due to infectious diseases. So you had um when was the I think prior to 1921 the 19th amendment was passed, right? The women's right to vote. Right after that was passed, a lot of the women, the social reform women, the women of the suffrage, um like Sister Ross Mariah Bay will always bring up these daughters of the American Revolution, right? They were the ones who were pioneering for this act, to push this act to Shepherd Towner, to save themselves and to save their babies. Now, physicians were against it because at that time, medicine and doctors, they were privatized, so they were able to control their own practice, set their own prices and everything. But with bringing that act, that would be and bringing federal funding to the states, that would be a socialization of medicine. And that federal funding also had the opportunity to be used in, other communities, with healthcare workers outside of physicians. So the physicians were looking at it like it's going to create competition, and they already looked at the midwives as competition because from the early 1900s, they were already putting in their medicine journals and petitioning for the ending of midwifery, considering it, cloning, do all the propaganda is barbarism, is something of the past, it's a relic, trying to erase the culture. So the physicians decided that they would use that act as a essentially a hostile takeover, and they directed all of those funds from the Shepherd Towner Act. They directed the funds to state public nursing training. And then what they did was they built clinics, and then they sent nurses into all of these parts of the country, especially in our neighborhoods, especially in the deep South too, where there were a lot of midwives concentrated, the granny midwives. There were thousands, hundreds of thousands of them, you know. So they would go in and they basically were like the auxiliaries for the doctors. They would go, they would be the eyes and ears. They would try to force their training on the midwives. And the funny thing is though, they came in there again, with the destiny swap, trying to act like they were going to teach the midwives something, and they learned an extensive, the whole entire nurse midwifery owes their training to the traditional midwives. Excuse me, because medicine didn't know anything about, like what I was speaking about earlier with approaching the unique situations that happen in birth. We didn't look at it as it was something that was emergency. It was a unique situation. You cannot panic. Birthing unfolds differently. And again, bringing that ancestral connection. Every birth is like a divination in a sense. The way you birth, the way your child births, and it's a lot that a woman learns about herself. If she's tapped into herself like that, it's a lot that you learn about yourself through your births and the way that you birth and how you birth. And it's also communication from the ancestral realm about who this child is, who this ancestor is, what they came here to do, and how you're supposed to raise them. All of that divination is in the birth. And this is what the midwives and the birth team, they got together to protect that. So um the nurses went in there and they learned and gathered all this information, and then they went back and created false reports claiming the midwives to be unsanitary, dirty, basically claiming them to be everything that they were. After that, a lot of laws were passed to gatekeep midwifery. They forced the women to they forced a lot of the granny midwives to either get a licensure up under them or stop practicing. But a lot of these standards that they wanted, these requirements that they wanted the granny midwives to meet to be a new licensed midwife up under their paradigm, their structure, she didn't meet those requirements, and they did that on purpose. For instance, some of the indigenous, right? We have our all the different dialects of all the different tribes of the Americas. You know, they required that they be English literate. You know, some would say, oh, literate, but no, it's not that they couldn't read and write. Some of them didn't speak and read or write English. You know, it wasn't that they weren't literate and things like that. So they set up the requirements so that basically they wouldn't be able to, you know, transition. And then after that, it was a lot of continued campaign on, you know, birth in the hospitals being the hospitals being the standard of care, you know, doctor knows best, you know, all of these different campaigns that were put together to really to solidify medicine and to create mistrust, you know, of our traditional healers.
Now, Kasha, those
Yes.
who are listening to you, and those who have listened to you, if you actually done this presentation before, they would view what you're saying as racism. And this is what I'm saying again.
Yeah.
That has been that this it's that has been pushed. The
No.
reason that and racism, it's known as the subjugation of an entire state. It's not racism.
No.
It's not prejudice.
It's
It's
control.
not hatred. It's not discrimination. I'm going to use international law principles and international law framework. We are people who belong to a Moorish state by national origin and descent
Mhm.
because our mother has been in a coma for over 200 years. That in international law, that is known as the loss of sovereignty and subjugation of entire state, the dismantling of a state. So they trained us to look at what Akasha is saying as racism, prejudice, hatred, discrimination. We must use international law framework, international law principles. We are a people of a that belong to a Moorish state that has lost her sovereignty. We must it's known as the loss of sovereignty as due to Dutch, Spanish, Aragonese, Castilian, Spanish, French, Dutch, Portuguese, English through conquest, colonization, subjugation. We lost our Moorish sovereignty. This led to the dismantling of the loss of our Moorish territorial control and sovereignty. We must use it. We will never find our way home. Politically, we're home already. I'm talking about politically, we cover our lost Moorish sovereignty. So as Akasha is talking, I'm not thinking racism. I'm not discrimination. I'm thinking prejudice. I'm thinking loss of sovereignty, subjugation, using because I'm studied in this areas. Those who are not, they're racism, prejudice, hatred, the man, black people. See that? See that? That's the subjugated mind. The white man don't like black people. Hatred. We'll never find a way home. What I mean, never recover our lost moral sovereignty, revive our moral statehood. Be very specific. So thank you, Akasha. I just want to, the audience, we must properly look at what they're doing to us in the framework of international law.
Yes. Yeah. No, you hit the head on the nail, and you always, you know, I appreciate how you always shed light on that, because that really that is it right there. You know, it's how your perception of it. You know, even in modern midwifery in the Black community. The Black midwives are, I have my team, I have my council and my organization that I'm part of. Um, it's interesting. Midwifery has is with all that has happened, it's become cliquish in a sense. And there has been division amongst the Black midwives, based on the pathway you choose, whether you choose to go the route and put yourself up under, the system, with their licensure, even though you're accredited and you're trained and you're skilled and you have experience, or to stand on your rights and still practice, right, your customary rights and practices, because it's not medicine. Those of us who practice the original way, we're not dealing in medicine. This is a spiritual customary practice. Birth is a natural process, so a lot of the midwives in the Black community are focused on, it's this trauma bond. Black women are, two times, four times, five times as much. We're more than likely to die than any other women in a hospital. We're more likely, our babies are most likely to die in a hospital due to systemic racism. And it's like, but y'all keep walking up in the hospitals, and furthermore, it's not that. It's, oh, we need to take funds and create programs where doctors are more cultural sensitive, and it's like, no, that's not it. Like you said, we're dealing with subjugation, all of the race thing, and then they keep them caught in this bubble where the real revolution, what I'm saying, is not happening in the numbers that it could happen, because they're stuck in this loop of the racism aspect, and they're getting money from it. Now this year, it's funny. This year they told a big Black midwife organization, one of the larger ones, that in order to get funding, they had to, can you tell Rashad to give me the charger? Rashad, hold on one second. I want to get the charger because my phone.
All right, those who are joining us and those who have been with us for an hour and 22 minutes, thank you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button. Definitely a great. I have a special guest next week. Uh, Dr. Filet's on with us now. She's listening. I saw she actually listening, and I saw her put in the chat, and the name came up, and so she will be our guest speaker next week. So our guest speaker is listening live and direct with us now. The founder of the Million Woman March. I've known Dr. Filet for uh, since 1997, since the actually early part of 1997, and so we definitely I'm honored to have I'll be honored to have her. And this will be the first time that she'll be on Moorish Monday with me, and so she did chime in on the chat. I saw her name come up about maybe 40 minutes ago. All right. So once again, those who haven't hit the subscribe button, please do so. Hit the like button. I always want to give a continued shout out to Brother Hank for offering this platform to me 21 months ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You
that's
are.
peace. That's
Mm-hmm.
peace. Yes. Damn, where did I start? I'm trying to remember where I left
We
off at. Oh
talked about
yeah.
keeping us in the false paradigm of this
Yes,
racism.
exactly. Yeah, so that's how the midwifery movement has been co-opted, where they're keeping them stuck in this Black midwives, this trauma bond of, oh, Black women are most likely to die. We're dying. Everything is this struggle, is, Black death, this obsession with Black death, and then, yeah, so it's like I can't deal. In the beginning of my journey, when I learned the politics of it, I was hot about it. So I would speak out a lot against it, on my activism, and I realized it's like, no, that's not how the change is gonna make. I'm
Mm-mm.
gonna do my work in my space how I'm called to do it. And naturally doing that, I aligned with other birth working sisters who are on the same trajectory.
You have to, like, the change is not going to, because the change is not going to occur like that, because we're connecting to our mother. We're not reconnecting to
Exactly.
our. It's never going to happen if you don't reconnect to our mother. It's
Reconnect.
in our mother.
It's in our mother,
It's
and
on
you would
speaking
think.
politically and speaking politically. It's in the
Mhm.
we must return home. When I say home politically home, that's known in international law as the recovery of lost sovereignty, revival of statehood. We must return home. We're already home far as geographically. We didn't come on those shakes. We were not descendants of, that whole same old slave ship. We are the native, autochthonous, aboriginal people of North Central South America. So I'm talking return home. I'm talking returning home jurisdictional wise. You know, far as more statehood,
Mhm.
And that's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. That's what I'm talking. So right now we are politically bonded under through subjugation to the United States. In international law, United States forced us into their legal system and placed us through the 14th Amendment into a new citizenship framework in international law that is known as the acquisition of nationality through subjugation. United
Mhm.
States acquired territorial sovereignty from Great Britain, from Spain, from United States of Mexico, from France. So by United States acquiring territorial sovereignty, United States gained control over the territory as well as control over us. How do we end that control? How do we end the United States control over us? Or that ending the United States subjugating our people? We must teach the people who they are because they think they're black, nickel colored. They have no idea what that means politically, what that means in the international arena, what that means in the law of war. Be very specific. What does it mean in the law of the international law of war? You have of salvage. You have the law of the sea. So you have a people who are though we're on our land. This is our land, but United States has acquired territorial sovereignty. All right. Saying this our land, you can say that all you want. It's our land. It's our land. It's our land. That's good. That's good. We must address the United States territorial sovereignty over our land. We must be specific. United States acquired territorial sovereignty over our land from France, from the United States of Mexico, from Great Britain, from Spain. United States has title. United States gained title from conquering powers of our land. That has to be addressed with specificity. I'm saying we have to learn how to frame our argument in the international law framework using international law principles. Racism, prejudice, hatred, discrimination. We're the founders of the United States, and this is our government, and this is United States. We're the founding fathers, and 35 more. Those are misconceptions. We'll never move the people forward with misconceptions. Obverse and reverse. The Moorish dual national seal, the pyramid, and dual national government, obverse and reverse. That is a misconception. That, I mean, you that the word one. No. That's not a unification. That's not a unification. There's no unification of the Moroccan Empire and the United States forming as one. The Muhammad, George Washington writes Muhammad ibn Abdullah, December 1st, 9 months. George Washington writes Muhammad ibn Abdullah, emperor of the Empire of Morocco, 9 months after the enforcement of the United States Constitution. So how's it one? One means that you have this through a unification treaty, you have two foreign governments forming a single country. So therefore, you wouldn't be George Washington wouldn't be writing Muhammad ibn Abdullah. That position wouldn't exist anymore. You would have two countries, two foreign powers that form as one. Because that didn't happen. You would have that would be a merger. Two foreign powers form as one. I'm saying this, Akasha. I never questioned these before. I didn't have enough knowledge to question it. I was like everybody else. I parroted it. I parroted it for 25 years to thousands of people. So I take responsibility and I must do something about it. I'm teaching the proper concepts. I'm doing something about it. I'm not going to cry because cry ain't going to do nothing about it. I'm studying, I'm writing, I'm teaching, outreaching, networking, large network, large outreach, connecting, whatever it needs to be done so that I can place forth proper concepts. The misconceptions have held us back. And you can see that I'm very passionate about this.
Mhm.
You got to understand, 25 years,
Mhm.
thousands of people I taught misconceptions to. So you got to understand why I'm passionate about this.
Mhm.
When I say
I get
thousands,
it.
I mean thousands. 'Cause y'all know I've been out there. Y'all know I've been out there. So you're doing a wonderful job,
Yes,
Sister
ma'am.
Akasha.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, well. Okay, so um yeah, so after the dismantling of midwifery, or during the dismantling, because it was still traditional midwives practicing, but nurse midwifery, it was created in, I think it was created in 1925. American nurse midwives, right? It's funny how, not funny, but it's all in alignment with, when you speak of, the United States holding, this property, stolen goods, and how it was passed around, through these different countries through the subjugation. So after um setting off the fire, right, and spearheading this campaign to dismantle, discredit, and erase traditional midwifery, um, nurse midwifery was created in 1925, and it was modeled off of the English. Um, the nurses, the white female nurses, because that's who were the nurses during this time, during the 1920s. They were studying. They studied the different midwifery models of care in different European countries, but they settled for British. They considered the British one being the most professional, and they decided to integrate it. So this is how now, after attempting to shut it down, now co-opting it through bringing it under nursing, because it's a hierarchy in the medical system. It's doctor, then nurse, then everybody else. And the woman name was Mary Breckenridge. She's the founder of the Frontier Nursing School, and she's the one who sent you to creating and starting the practice of nurse midwifery. It happened. She was one of the women who also lost her baby. So then she went over to Britain. She went to Britain to study midwifery. And what they did, the English, they did it first. They did it. They literally followed basically, step by step, as far as how they set up the model of the medical model of care and the practice of midwifery in America. They modeled it directly off of the British by professionalizing it and making midwives part of state healthcare and public healthcare. And that's how they were able to basically get them into the system and standardize the practice, so that they, again, it's back to control and oversight. They wanted control and oversight over how these women were practicing. Because think about it, these women were empowered, they were leaders, they were, independent, even if married, they had their skill set. This was always natural. Again, coming from us being, the first peoples, and, following the ways of nature, and having this respect, for the divine feminine. That wasn't an issue. We didn't have the issues that, the so-called Caucasian, woman had with her man, and, him, the dominating, the subjugating of, her. We didn't have that in our culture, in our communities, and there's also, with the subjugation and just the complexity of, sometimes emotions that happen in these interactions. There's been this long standing, since enslavement, there's been a long standing, like, resentment, you know um towards us, in a sense. Now, I'm not trying to tie it into racism, but I think it's more of a culture thing, where, these set of women, they were more disempowered. You could say that, technically they were more disempowered in the way that they held space in their positions in society, compared to how, our cultures and customs were set up. So you see that reflected in the midwifery practice in modern day. um Again, along with the, as an extension, I think it's just an extension of the subjugation.
Absolutely, absolute extension. A point I thought about maybe 20 minutes ago as you were talking
Hmm.
about the various legislation. I think you were mentioning about the yes, the their lack of knowledge, their lack of medical knowledge. Now,
Hmm.
we're gonna take it back to the Inquisition. So let's talk. That's gonna tie it. Let's tie it to the Inquisition. The
Okay.
law. All right. And if you look at, because the Castilians, the French, the Aragonese, the Italians, the Sicilians, the Germans, they learned from the Moors. You look at Moorish rulership in Europe. So Cordoba was a library housed in Cordoba, housed over 600,000 manuscripts. That was the Mecca during the 7, 8, and 900s. That under the Umayyad dynasty, that was the Mecca of world knowledge during that time period. Remember, but during that time period, and if and you look at in there were medical treatises, surgeries, botany. So the Aragonese, I don't want to say Europeans, Aragonese, that's why, Aragonese, the Sicilians, the Italians, the French, and the English, they learned from us. So they had the knowledge. That's why I'm gonna tie it here, that they had before Portuguese, Spanish
Hmm.
colonization of our land over here. They had the knowledge. They had the knowledge. The loss of the knowledge came in the during the late 1400s throughout the 1500s, known as the Inquisition against the Moors. The knowledge was known. That the medical knowledge was known doing it. So the loss of knowledge came through the late 1400s and 1500s, known as the Inquisition against the Moors. That is when, so because I'm listening to you, and that they didn't have the knowledge, and at that time, you're correct. You're correct if
Hmm.
you're talking during the 1800s. So there's no, you're correct there. But
Hmm.
they did have the knowledge,
Hmm.
but the Inquisition was the Inquisition. The purpose of the Inquisition was to suppress medical, astronomical, geometrical, any scientific knowledge because we let me tie it back. All right,
Okay.
the Visigoths. The Visigoths during the 300s, 400s, 500s. There's a Dirt, book called Dirt. And these Europeans don't want that book out to the public. They would be
That
shameful.
book is like 300
That
something, it's $1,000 now. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a pretty
they
penny.
would be shameful. All right, like now you don't. Now no one has ever. We know people who are poor readers, but we don't know non-readers. Nobody knows non-readers. What I mean, let me explain. Let me explain. No one has ever met non-readers. What I mean by that, during the Visigoths rule, 300, 400, 500s, there was no public access to books.
Mm.
We have children who have access to books here. Like we have children who have seen books. So I'm saying that didn't exist. So what I'm saying is we never experienced that. We never experienced people not having access to books. Only the clergy and the nobility had access to books. So there was you had where they didn't bathe. I didn't bathe for 5 years or 10 years. This is serious. So we, the Moors, brought them out of the dark ages. So they did have the knowledge because of us. So I just want to tie that. It's important that we go back, Akasha, into the history and then bring it up. Bring that up. I did, where as so I just wanted to bring that up and tie it to your time period which you talked about. So you're right as far as they're not having the knowledge, but because of the Inquisition is why they didn't have the knowledge.
Right.
Because once again, our kingdom, the kingdom of Aragon and the kingdom of Castile, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand married in 1469 and formed Spain, therefore forming a new nationality, Spanish. All right, so those so-called Colombians, those are modern. Those are Mexicans, Colombians, El Salvadorians, Costa Ricans, Dominicans. Those are modern nationalities. Those are modern nation states that was established during the early 1800s. They're Castilians, Aragonese. They have Moorish blood as well, because we can show the evidence of the connections of the Moorish power and the great Moorish influence in Aragon and Castile and Venetia and Cordoba and southern France and Sicily and Italy and England. That's why the history is important, because the history gives you insight into modern day, and that's what I'm not trying to do anything. That's what I'm doing. I'm not trying anything. That's what I'm doing. Yes, I just wanted to bring that. I just wanted to connect that to what you were talking about, Kasha. Once again, you're doing a wonderful job.
So with them, right now. Well, now I have a question then, because that sparked something. So with the Inquisition, when the knowledge was suppressed, it was basically suppressed from everyone except for a group.
Except for the group. So yes, what happened
Except for
is you had. So what happened when Spain, as it was formed in 1469, they formed to end the last Moorish stronghold in Granada. So that was the last Moorish stronghold. So the kingdom of Granada, or the emirate of a Moorish emirate in Granada, that ended in the surrendering treaty of the Treaty of Granada of November 25th, 1491. that ended Moorish rulership in throughout Europe. All right. But in the treaty preserves Moorish rights, Moorish property rights. There's an extraterritoriality clause in the treaty where where Moorish law, though Moors will be governed by Moorish judge. That's an extraterritoriality clause. So what they did, what King Isabella and Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand did under now newly formed Spain, they violated Charles Philip the First and Philip the Second. Philip the First is the grandson of King Isabella and Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. Charles the First is the son. He's the son. So Charles the First is the early 1500s. Then you have his son, which is the grandson of Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, Philip the Second. Then you have their great grandson, Philip the Second. They violated the Treaty of Granada. This detail is very important. I'm talking about today. We have to tie that in. So these people thinking that these people are Dominicans or El Salvadorians or Costa Ricans or Mexicans or Colombians, all right, or Spanish. Well, what were they before Spanish? Because Spanish is the new nationality that came through the union of the marriage between Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. Is the language Spanish or Aragonese and Castilian? How did it become Spanish? How did Aragonese and Castilian become Spanish? Through the union of Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand forming a new kingdom called Spain. That's how. You have to know the history to know what's going on today. You see, I'm tying it today. I'm giving us insight on these political positions and these modern political nationalities: Colombian, Mexican, Salvadorian, Cuban, Costa Rican. Those have Moorish blood as well as Castilian and Aragonese blood. But you say Spanish blood. Well, that's only because that's modern though, because more Aragonese is older. Because Spain is just the new nation new kingdom that was formed between the marriage of Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand. That's all. Because what happens is people who don't know history, Akasha, they'll say, well, the Moors in Spain in 1200. Hold on, Moors in Spain in 1200. That can't be. How can it be Moors in Spain in 1200? Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand didn't get married till 1469, and they formed the new kingdom called Spain. You see how simple that is?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It does matter.
It does.
Somebody who has a motive will say Abdullah doesn't know what he's talking about. It doesn't matter. Well, history does matter. How things occur, how things got to where they are, why that's important for us to have. No, because in order to find our way home, I'm not saying home, I'm talking politically. I'm not talking geographically. I'm talking geographically, I'm talking politically. Recovering our lost Moorish sovereignty, reviving our Moorish state. I got to be very detailed because I don't want people to misconstrue anything that I'm saying. I will be specific. I will identify the dog. I will identify the international principle by specificity and by concept. I can break down the concept with specificity in the application. So we have 7 more minutes, Akasha.
Okay.
So I just want to bring that forth to you. So once again, you're
Yes.
doing a wonderful
Yes.
job, and I thank you for accepting my invitation.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be here again. I appreciate you, Brother Abdullah. Much appreciation to Brother Hank. I don't, does anybody have any questions? In closing, I would say this point, I think I gave the whole rundown.
Well, how can we find you? How I what tell us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, are you planning? I want to definitely bring you back. I will definitely bring you back. Are
Okay.
you are you working on any future speaking engagements? So you have any future engagements already? Any speaking engagements already scheduled? Do you have a platform? Do you have? How do we contact? Just let us. Give us
Yes.
the 9-1
Yes. Let me give you the
the four one
contact.
one the 411.
Okay. Yes, yes. My ministry, my birth ministry collective brand is called Wild Rose Society. You can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on YouTube where I speak and I share things. I speak about motherhood on that channel. I speak about feminine mysticism and spirituality, and things of that nature. Healthcare as well, women's health, feminine care, and just different social commentary, pertaining to our people, I said IG. I'm not on Facebook yet, so IG or YouTube. My website is currently under renovation. I want to have it up by September, so I'm still technically still postpartum. I just gave birth in February actually, so my baby is 6 months. So I'm 6 months postpartum. I do consultations for women. I also have holistic medicines and elixirs and botanicals. So all of that will be on the website. Yeah, that's the easiest way. You can also Google me too. I have a Google profile for where I'm at. I'm out here in Arkansas, like right outside of not too far from Little Rock. So if you Google Wild Rose Society, my contact is on there as well. So right now I'm not taking any clients unless they're actually in the state of Arkansas or
Right.
nearby, any of the surrounding states nearby. But basically, once my baby is one, I'm gonna start taking more clients for birth. My last client was in September. I caught a baby while I was pregnant. That was the first time I ever caught a baby while I was pregnant. So that was a beautiful experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll be reopening my bookings for birth work and womb work in February. But right now I'm just doing virtual consultations.
That's wonderful. What
Mhm.
is your IG account again? IG.
Yeah, the IG is Wild Rose Society.
Wow. All
Wild
right.
Rose Society.
Live
Yeah.
Rose Society.
Wild Rose Society. Yep.
In fact, I should have put. All right. Good. In fact, I'm gonna post that. When I repost this video, I'll
Okay.
actually yeah, I'll put that down.
Okay.
Just send me all
Okay.
that information too. Text me so
Will
that I
do.
can promote that. I want to promote you. All right,
Okay,
great,
thank you. Will
great.
do.
Any
Will do.
closing remarks?
Um, I think that's it. I mean, if y'all have unless anybody has any questions, you know how to reach me. Again, I'm thankful for you extending the invitation, Brother Abdullah. Um, I'm very honored, to be working with you. I've been on this path for a while, and particularly, as a Moor, and coming back into my Moorish heritage. I already knew it, it when I came into the wisdom, when I came into the knowledge, I automatically knew. Like it was just it was instinctual, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I always felt like it was the missing key to us, changing the paradigm and taking our sovereignty back and reestablishing ourselves. We have to tie in, the legalities. We really have to have that knowledge, along with the spiritual wisdom, the holistic health wisdom. Like
Absolutely, absolutely,
we have to have that knowledge on law, on contracts, on government, nation building, like that. That's really
absolutely.
key. That's key to it all. That's key to it all. So, yep, that's all she wrote for tonight.
All right. Those who are interested in getting into my books, go to my website, moorsandmasonry.org. That's moorsandmasonry.org. I have the Howard Venus and Moon rules that actually tie into what some of the things Akasha talked about, Howard Venus. So you see, going across the screen, moorsandmasonry.org for my anyone interested in my books. So once again, I will have Dr. Fillet, founder of the Million Woman March. I've known her since the early part of 1997. She will be my guest next week. So I'm excited to have Dr. Fillet as my guest for the first time on this, not on anybody. I've had her on our Moroccan Post Media YouTube channel back in the fall of 2022, but I'll have her first for the first time on this platform, Moorish Monday, with me. And so I'm excited to have her. She will be in the house next week. Tune in 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time. Thank you once again, Brother Hank. I appreciate you. Give you great honors. Sister Akasha, I bow to you. I appreciate you. Thank you again.
Thank
Peace,
you.
everyone.